Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. I have to say, it was almost Work in Progress with John Lane and no Will Barfield. You saw that coming, didn't you?
Oh, of course I did. I set you up nicely for that.
You did. What were you doing, brother? Closing a big
Oh,
deal?
I was taking a nap. Remember last episode I discussed we should have a nap segment
Yes, you did.
in the show. So
Nap
I'm just power
segment.
napping, so I'll be ready for Sean.
How'd that work out for you?
Oh, great. Don't I look more alert?
I would say you had bedhead, but you need more hair to have bedhead.
I
Ooh,
do.
sorry.
I do need more hair.
That's my passive aggressive on don't be late for this pod.
Just be aggressive.
That's true. I'll do that. All right. Welcome to an all-new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. This podcast explores leadership traits under stress with a special guest each week. We use a simple and accurate OAD assessment to identify key personality traits or superpowers, as well as the shadow side, kryptonite traits that appear when we're under stress. As always, we'll have some pod banter, shameless plugging, and we'll even let our guests talk for a bit. Of course, no humble brags. Welcome to the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of Work in Progress with John Lane and Will Barfield. I have to say, it was almost Work in Progress with John Lane and no Will Barfield. You saw that coming, didn't you?
Oh, of course I did. I set you up nicely for that.
You did. What were you doing, brother? Closing a big
Oh,
deal?
I was taking a nap. Remember last episode I discussed we should have a nap segment
Yes, you did.
in the show. So
Nap
I'm just power
segment.
napping, so I'll be ready for Sean.
How'd that work out for you?
Oh, great. Don't I look more alert?
I would say you had bedhead, but you need more hair to have bedhead.
I
Ooh,
do.
sorry.
I do need more hair.
That's my passive aggressive on don't be late for this pod.
Just be aggressive.
That's true. I'll do that. All right. So here's our little banter, and we're gonna get going. So this will come out way late, but Will, ask me how Ireland was.
Yes, John. How was Ireland?
Oh, it was the best. We did, and then we went to, oh, and the best time ever was that day we spent on. I'll put them in and edit. No, but seriously, we head out tomorrow. We're looking forward to it. And
Yeah. Are you all packed? I was thinking about you today. I was like,
getting
how do you
packed.
pack for a month? I
Oh,
guess you just.
actually, it's easier because we'll have a washer and dryer and this kind of stuff. So you just pack a couple of things. But yeah, I haven't been away for a month since like summer camp. So that's a long time ago.
That is, yeah.
Maybe
Couple of
college,
years.
I guess. College, summer camp. And then we might have mentioned this last time, but we are well on our way to our live anniversary show, as well as our panel shows. So more on that coming. But let's
I have a bit of banter. It's
Oh,
Yeah,
whoa,
it's
whoa.
topical.
Go.
Shirt color.
Yes.
What color is my shirt?
It looks pink, but maybe
It
it's
is pink. It's pink. It's pinker in person. I'm wearing this because I am going to see Barbie with my wife and youngest this evening. So apparently that's a big deal. And Amy said, "You're wearing pink." And Amy's my wife. She also owns this company that I am a part of, Sean. So she could fire me if I. So I just did what she said. I put on pink today.
That's just a good. That's
Matches my
just a
skin tone.
good all around answer. Yeah. Yeah. You wore pink last shirt too.
Very recently, yes, but
Yeah.
because this is Barbie Day, I brought it back.
I like it. So I'm John Lane.
I'm Barbie. I'm Will Barfield.
That makes me Ken.
Yeah.
And we are
A
a work in progress. As always, we have our special guest. And you know he's a special guest because the animation comes on only for special guests. Otherwise, it's just guests. Sean, where does the future start?
The future starts at Prometric. So
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, everybody. It says it right on the slide there. So yeah, it starts at Prometric right there.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Well, say hello to our audience, our WIPsters, we call them. Yep, exactly, Will. And say as much or a little about yourself as you'd like.
Yeah, sure. So hello, audience. I'm Sean Burke, COO at Prometric. Will, I am a 2-time Barbie attendee.
Oh,
so
really? So much you saw it twice.
when we're done, I can answer any questions. I can set you up for the emotional part. So I'm glad to be here, gentlemen.
Great to see you. And we've had this plan for a while. I believe I stalked you pretty good on LinkedIn, and you finally came. And then it took us a while to get this scheduled. So you are our last recorded episode before our summer break. So we're gonna make today count, and then we're gonna take a little R&R. So let us get rolling. So our frequent our visitors, whipsters, and anyone new coming on, maybe some of your folks that you've had show up, probably know that we talk about leadership traits under stress. And then oftentimes, Will, what happens to me?
Well, he'll be anywhere, Sean, walking down the street, at the mall, in the restroom,
and those people will come up to me and say, John, where do you get those leadership traits under stress?
It's a little awkward when he's in the restroom,
It's
but
a
he
little
just keeps,
awkward
it goes
when
with
I'm in
it.
the restaurant. And I tell them, like I do every week, that we get it from the OAD personality assessment. And Will tell you, well,
It
Hank
is
will tell
brief,
you. Yeah.
easy to administer and understand.
Really?
Right? I mean, you took it, Sean, what, like 5-7 minutes maybe. You're just picking adjectives, if you
Very
remember. I don't know
fast.
how long ago it was
Very
you took it.
fast, exactly.
That's right.
It may be the best, Sean, I'm going to put words in your mouth, maybe simply the best assessment that you've ever used. Is that fair to say?
Well, it's definitely the easiest to administer, which gets a high rating there. And then the results are quick to come by. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you look from end to end, it's strong. And for people like me, based off of my stress profile,
yeah,
not being super detail oriented, I'm probably the right person to take a 5-minute assessment.
Exactly. So
he did better on that slide than I could have, John.
Yeah, so we'll finish up just extemporaneously.
As Sean mentioned, right?
Yeah.
It surfaces deep, meaningful, actionable, and accurate leadership personality traits.
It does.
And you can use this assessment independently or in
Really?
conjunction with other leadership management tools and workshops, etc.
Wow, sounds super powerful, and that just rolled right off your tongue, Will. So thank you for bringing that up to our folks.
That's the payoff of the nap. I'm alert.
That is, you're much sharper than usual. I like that. Okay, so we start rolling. So the way we introduce OAD to folks is through the leadership style matrix. Now, I'm sure everyone who's watching today has watched my 6-part leadership traits from any quadrant LinkedIn posting, and let's agree, masterful. But we'll talk a little bit today. So the leadership style matrix, classic business 2x2 quadrant, 13 typical traits spread across all 4 quadrants. How you read it is like this: I am a socially oriented generalist in the builder quadrant, and I am a negotiator. Will, you are a
technically oriented generalist, architect quadrant, developer.
Correct. And our new friend Sean is participate, Sean, a socially oriented
generalist
in the builder quadrant and a
influencer.
Yes. An influencer is one of my, I have to say, it's one of my 13 favorite typical.
Well, I can't wait to be influenced by him for the rest of this show.
I am serious, though. I do like the influencer because almost always it's spread wide, so there's a lot of intensity. It gives you a good, clean read. Well, let's show people what that means. So, Will, ask your question.
By the way, speaking of being an influencer, Sean, I'm a sucker for peer pressure. So
yes.
you can own me for the rest of this show, whatever you want. This is a John. We're missing that. No, that's not on this slide. I'm wondering about the G word, generic. That'll show up on the next one, right?
Did Correct.
You fix that?
Yeah. We've done 41 of these, and I liked it though. But keep going.
So, builder, influencer, the survey results here, very high on the high on the assertiveness, leading with extroversion, right? Yeah. Higher on the E.
Yeah.
We got to look at that gap in between the. Sorry, I'm using my own mouth.
Yes.
That gap in between the extroversion and patience. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 centiles.
Big.
What a spread! And then he's got this interesting hook back D
Correct.
On the detail orientation, and I'm going to let John talk about that because he does a good job of covering it. That looks like a classic builder to me, where extroversion
Builder
leads.
influencer. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And isn't there a question you want to ask Sean?
There's several.
The question we ask every week in this segment:
how he feels about having himself compressed into a two-dimensional table.
How does that feel?
I wouldn't do it if I wasn't fine with it. I've had so many assessments on me that if I don't know who I am by now, then I've got problems with comprehension. So I think it's really good. I think any chance that you have to get objective feedback on what your tendencies and traits would be, I think it only helps you to what I call kind of sandpaper your edges off to try to be the best leader you can. So I love it.
Exactly. And that is what the 6-part series was all about. There in OAD, we say leaders can come from any quadrant, but the best ones know what their strengths are. They understand how they communicate and how they and others on their team consume information. And when you can internalize that and get those swing thoughts, you're going to be a better leader from whatever quadrant you're in. So let's finish up breaking down what Will started. Thank you, Will. So everyone remembers that the way you get into the quadrant is the relative traits between A and D and E and D. Real simply, when A is greater than D, you're a generalist. When E is greater than D, you're social. In OAD, the difference between those number of centiles, we call them, are a measure of intensity. So it doesn't really matter where this pattern falls, but the relative difference is a measure of intensity. And then we look at our friend A and P, which do not show up on the matrix itself, but they are relative traits. And when P is to the left of A, that's somebody who is comfortable with change and also operates with some urgency. And so that is almost one of the longest spreads on the chart. So you have that in both. So that's your natural state. And now we're going to roll into a couple of, what are these, Will?
These are generic builder influencer superpowers and kryptonite. So Sean, anyone who lands in the builder influencer upper right quadrant with this, kind of generic profile is going to get the same superpower readout. So we're not going to spend too much time on this segment of the slide, but of those that are bulleted there, is there one that really stands out to you that you're like, that's absolutely me, or that others have, kind of said to you in the past, this is you?
Yeah, I think for me, the one that stands out is the task delegator. That with the size of my organization, it's really important that I have all the work to be done spread out and it all doesn't fall on me. And a lot of that requires me to be very, very organized. And so, yeah, task delegator for sure. I think the people that work for me would tell you that I don't hold on to many things myself. I'm very quick to make sure that they get into the hands of the people that can get them done faster and more effective than what I could.
And Sean, that's great. That's very self-aware. It took me much longer to get to that self-awareness, and so over time, and I have a similar lower end D in that I have probably unconsciously built systems around myself. So every email I send goes into a CRM. That CRM will remind me to follow up, even if I haven't asked it to, et cetera, et cetera. And that's because if I don't have that type of support, I will not do the follow-ups that I know I should and know I want to. So it looks like you've done that and you've built a whole organization around that, and you're not going to let yourself be a bottleneck. That's really smart.
Kryptonite. So superpowers, inverted, shadow side. Thank you, Sarah Glova. The kryptonite piece, when things get difficult, stress is high, you're facing challenge. These are the generic ones that are associated with the builder influencer profile. Which one of these really rings true with you? Pick one that stands out.
Yeah, none of them, by the way, like jump off the page for me, but there is one that I think resonates more, and it's about being too concerned about pleasing others and may overcommit. But let me try to get to the root of that.
Yeah, do.
When things are going well, I feel very, very good. I feel like I have time. I feel like I can put all the things in place. When we're behind or we're not achieving the way that I think that we should, I don't feel like I need to please others, but it's almost like a guilt that I feel that, and the way I describe it to my team is I want us in a sales and commercial organization to be as predictable as your paycheck every 2 weeks. Because if people don't get paid every 2 weeks, they're going to cause a ruckus. And for me, if we're not hitting our numbers, we're not doing the things that we need to do. If I'm getting a bunch of emails in that are pulling me away from the strategy, I really want to dig in and be like, we're going to fix this. I'm going to commit to the team to turn this around. I just can't let it sit there very long. It becomes uncomfortable for me. And so that one really sticks out to me.
That's awesome.
Okay. You went through this exercise. You did the pre-show work, Sean, and you communicated with John about some superpowers, took some notes and bulleted some things out for us here. Talk us through kind of, why you wanted to emphasize these points.
Yeah, for me, in my organizations, usually between 50 and 70% of our performance is the team that we put on the field. And then the other 30 to 50% are the performance conditions that we create as an organization to help them be effective and efficient at what they do. So for me, I just wanted to focus on one thing. And one thing that I really stress as part of my role in the organization is when we're bringing on new people, when I work with any individuals in our company, I try to find that unique thing that they do or bring to the table that could be their superpower. I try to really understand it, what makes it work, and try to get the most out of that superpower. And then I try to find differentiating superpowers across the team. So each of those team members can learn from those individuals' superpowers. So it's almost like a rising tide lifts all ships. And so this is something that I've literally worked almost 30 years on, is finding like what are the earmarks for talent and finding superpowers, making sure that they're totally fulfilled, and then making sure that the entire team is aligned to each and every person's individual superpower.
Before we leave the slide, I'd love to understand in that 30 years worth of expertise how you have fashioned a way to identify those superpowers. Yes. That's one question I have, and then I got another quick one right after that.
Go for it.
Yeah. So for us, I'll just take a salesperson's role. When I interview, usually I'm the last person to interview a salesperson. I ask them a question like, what are you better at in the sales process than anybody else that you know? Is it discovery? Is it closing, negotiation, scoping, whatever it is? And then we role play it. And I really try to test to see how good they are. And if I see things that would tell me that that's not their superpower, I tell them, and then we do it again. And the reason why I want to do that is, number one, I want to see is if they're really good at this. And if they're not, then it isn't a superpower. But if they are somewhat good at it, the second thing is I want to see how coachable are they to see if I can enhance that superpower. And then I look to see when I'm interviewing them, if they have a superpower that I don't have on the rest of my team, because that would put them in a unique position to get the job.
Yeah, and you halfway answered my next question, which was going to be, when you're hiring for a role on a team, do you go into the hiring process with a superpower bias? Like, I really need to find someone who has this particular superpower because that will complete the team DNA.
I do. I have. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Understood. I mean, if you're going to that level of evaluation, I would imagine that there's quite a plan.
It's not forced, by the way, Will. if they have a different superpower that I don't have, but it was not the one that I earmarked, I am totally open to that. But if you have a bunch of people that are great at negotiating, you don't need another negotiator there. You need someone who's good at discovery or someone who's good at scoping. So, but I'm always on the hunt for new superpowers. By the way, very few salespeople can even articulate a superpower, and they're most of the time I see them looking up, and I'm like, you're coming up with it on the fly. So I just encourage anybody who's out there in sales, figure out what it is and work on it.
And that's why we use the OAD assessment. Commercial message.
Kryptonite. Okay. Talk to us about your notes here, please, Sean.
Yeah, I was thinking about what it'd be like to report to me and like all the things that I would hate about working for me. Or just want to know. So the first thing is I often tell my team, I wish I could just take my brain out and put it in your head for a while, and we would work so much better together, because in a lot of cases, my mind is going so fast that it's hard for me. I just expect everybody to be seeing the things that I see, working on the things that I know are issues, etc. And that's not fair to them. So, I know it's a kryptonite to me. What I try to do before my one-on-ones is to write down the things over the last week that I've been thinking about with their own teams and tell them that. I'm not great at it, but it's something that I try to do. The other thing is that I know myself well enough that my right-hand person for a lot of my work is the counter to me. So I often like to say that if you watch the movie Moneyball, I'm the Brad Pitt character, and I have a Jonah Hill that helps me with all the details, all the analytics, etc. Now, it says in my profile I'm not detail oriented, but I do want someone to give me and work with me on the details and on the analysis so I can move the big rocks to address them. And I think that having that counterpart that loves to dig in the details, loves to figure out things and percolate them back up is really important. So if anyone matches my profile, I would just hope that they have, someone who is the yin to their yang to help them do that, because you do have to operate in both areas. And then I think I already mentioned about when we're off track, the guilt that I feel, and I almost try to get way out ahead of anything that we're not hitting, or things that I feel are off track, just so the company knows that I'm on it and we're going to fix it and we're going to get it back on track.
Will, what am I thinking?
Oh, I don't know. I was so busy thinking about my question.
I'm going to jump in then, and I'm going to ask you, we're going to go to the replay booth in New York. So, Sean, as you well know, we have an unofficial motto on the pod, which is no humble brags.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had a guy a couple of shows ago compare himself to Ted Lasso. We called our first humble brag on him. So we have to go back to the video and ask, when you compare yourself to Brad Pitt, where does that fall?
No, that's definitely not. It's the relationship between the two characters. It's the best analogy that I've found. I could tell you there's look, all you have to do is look at the you don't have to go to the tape. There's no Brad Pitt in here, but the concept of working together with somebody very analytical, there's just nobody that you would know that I could use it. So and I'm not in baseball and I'm not an actor, so there's nothing in what I do that would be a comparison. I do think it's easy.
The referees are picking up the flag.
You're getting the laundry off the field.
Laundry off the field. Fair enough. And you get 5 yards back.
Okay.
Will, I want to jump forward. Will you ask your follow-up question there?
Yeah, it's going to be it's a fast one. You talked about the speed at which you move, Sean, your mind. As you've evolved as a leader, I assume you've gotten better about how you cope with the fact that those around you sometimes can't move at that speed, don't see what you see. The game's not slowing down for them. How did you arrive at that self-awareness, and as a leader, how do you manage to make sure that you don't leave people behind, or that they don't get disengaged because they feel like they can't work at your rate?
Yeah, so I actually uh we deploy some mentors and coaches for our leadership team, and that person totally identified it in me. And what we worked on there is a path to communication that is more patient, where is if there's a path, let's just say like ABCD, my tendency is go from A to D. And so what I've moved to is a slower progression to go to B, to go to C, to get to D, but in a more rapid pace than just jumping over the steps. The other is I just, at certain periods when we're working through something, I think some of it is I just get, I don't want this to sound, I just get bored and I just want to get to the end of the book.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think just slowing it down and picking up things that I'm not considering has been really helpful. But I think it comes with age and just mistakes that you made when you were younger, and you just can't do it. You just can't act the same way and think the same way as you mature in your career. And a lot of mistakes, get you to the point where you, again, sand off those hard edges that you have.
Well, you're one that clearly embraces, assessments, evaluation, and coaching. You willing to reflect. This has been a reflection exercise. Talk about what you learn as going through this with us, this pre-show prep, and then the conversation today, and how you can apply some of the things that we covered and discussed, and in your leadership position now and moving forward.
Yeah, I think for me, the one thing that I think people, when they see this, that one tag of influencer is gonna, I think that's the easiest thing for people to focus on is I'm an influencer, and like it's a binary thing. You're either an entrepreneur, an influencer, whatever it is, or negotiator like John is. And what it makes me feel like I need to do is to step back and not try to drive the conversation as much, because I may be shutting down some really good feedback that I could get from my peers or others. And so, like, even in one of our last strategy sessions, one of my peers said, "Sean, you haven't said anything yet." And I'm like, "No, I'm practicing listening." So hey, look, none of us are perfect, but with time, that's one thing that I'm trying to do is listen and talk less, and wait until, especially when it's a hot topic, wait until the entire discussion has kind of been realized. And if there's anything left, then come in and like maybe finish it out instead of leading it off.
That's great.
Smart. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sean, I can't believe this, but after all of our time and waiting to get to here, we've come to the end of the show. So I thank you very much. Will, thanks you very much.
Oh, I do. I thank you very much.
I'm John Lane.
I'm Will Barfield.
And we are
a work in progress. Thanks,
See you
Sean.
in the fall, everybody. Thanks,
really
Sean.
Enjoyed it. A lot of
Thank
fun.
You.